Foreword. How to use this channel. Who could benefit from it? After this video, see below multiple playlists.
Foreword. There is no need to go in detail in which state our planet is and where we are standing as individuals. But we all know that changes are needed. Unfortunately, the global signs and individual messages that affect our well-being are not enough to set a positive change in action. We are not grasping that all what is happening external is merely a reflection from within ourselves. Quote, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." Talmud. End of quote. We don't see these messages as wake-up calls. We don't accept them, go for external help only, and as soon as the peak of a crisis is over, or even before, we desperately want to go back to that familiar life which created the crisis, because that is the only reality we know. Quote, "Insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." Albert Einstein. End of quote. Some of us are really trying to make some changes in one or more areas of life, but we are unable to really experience a different life, because our way of experiencing life is based on our conditionings, linked to our education, which is about how to make a living. Could it be that with all our knowledge that we still haven't grasped how this body, mind and foreign world is built, how it all functions, interrelates and affects each other? We might have learned to make a living, have invented and created endless things, but in the process have become consumers and consuming our own health and the health of the planet, and still haven't found peace, happiness, contentment, or a deeper understanding about life and how to live it well. Quote, "There are obvious two educations. One should teach us how to make a living, and the other how to live." James Truslow Adams. End of quote. Imagine that you have forgotten who and what you really are, and where you came from, and that you ended up in a total unfamiliar reality or dimension. You have no idea how the body, the mind, and the world around you functions, is regulated, and with which material it is built. Believe it or not, this is the predicament most of us on the planet Earth are confronted with, but mostly not having realized it yet. Call this foreign world the theater stage of life, and realize that we know little about how the stage is built, how the world of body, mind and matter is governed, regulated by indisputable laws. Little do we know how the mind operates and about the magical role play within our mind, reflecting itself external as the cast in the world around us. It is because the lack of this knowledge and its practical application that we struggle so much. Quote, "Look and you will find it. What is unsought will go undetected." Sophocles. End of quote. We may have an advisor, a healthcare practitioner, a nutritionist, personal trainer, or even a lifestyle coach, but we don't have access to them all day long. We may be on a spiritual path, go to church, believe in God, pray and meditate, but why are we all still struggling in almost every aspect of daily living? Could it be that we are not able to convert the teachings we follow into something practical and reflecting it in every aspect of living? In regards to all this just mentioned, discover the sacred archives and step into the magical University of Life and meet your team of life coaches, being the 32 faculty members of the university, called the Magical Council or the Sacred Council, and representing the guiding forces of Creator, universe, and nature. Why not use an entire lifestyle coaching team, empowering us from within ourselves and through which we can experience life through different eyes, from a different perspective, and assisting ourselves and others differently and practically in any aspect of daily living and in any challenging situation. We are guided on the outside by nature's balancing forces, always giving us messages and directions, and we are guided from within in endless ways. Once we start listening and reading about the information, we come to the conclusion that this information and guidance is already within us. It just needed to be woken up. Quote, "We cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves." Galileo Galilei. End of quote. We are all in need of a different base and need to be constantly reminded in order to stay awake and aware. Here at the archives and university, we call the students life scientists, who are in the process of experimenting with the information and able to prove things to themselves and live it. This timeless treasure is presented in the world of fiction, and to be more precise, through visionary and mystical fiction, and keeping it all light and fun. The information is communicated by magical characters and shared through endless life-enhancing and soul-touching stories, sacred maps, mystical libraries, inspirational galleries, secret museums with symbols, and much more. Quote, "You are led through your lifetime by the inner learning creature, the playful spiritual being that is your real self." Richard Bach. End of quote. So, become a life scientist and study at the Magical University of Life at the Sacred Archives, and which keeps you as well awake and aware about the fact that we are not that what we see in the mirror. The power of imagination, inspired through the world of visionary and mystical fiction, playing make-believe and using it in a practical way in our moment-to-moment life and all its challenging situations, is a great tool, but we can only do this when we know and understand how everything on the theater stage of life works. Quote, "It is not enough to do your best. You must know what to do and then do your best." W. Edward Deming. End of quote. This is the school before and after any other school, in which we learn to accept and guide ourselves through the challenges of life and rediscover our own fairy tale, in which we have to learn to play all our roles well, like good actors do. Quote, "All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances. Each man in his time plays many parts." William Shakespeare. End of quote. The information is not with an aim trying to change the world, situations and people, but about changing ourselves, upgrading our consciousness, creating a stronger and different base, and learning how to deal differently with it all. Quote, "You have to be the change you want to see in the world." Gandhi. End of quote. A special education or better said, re-education for a new generation. Great for any individual seeking a new base, and especially for parents and children, to give them a different and additional base. Quote, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Alvin Toffler. End of quote. Take your time to read and listen to all the information. Being a source of information we usually do not receive at school or at home, and created for a lifetime for self-study, self-help, and self-transformation. It can be looked at being the practical application of any scripture of any faith, and which assists to vital, awake, and aware living. When you would be reading along with the narration, please ignore the grammatical errors of the unedited information, written and spoken by someone who was not raised in the English language. Make time. Sit in peace. Listen and read, or just listen to the information like listening to an audiobook, and get inspired to a different or new life adventure. Play in the background some suitable music and make your entire experience even more magical. Know that all videos are not posted yet, but you could look at it as your growing library. Just subscribe and you will be notified when new videos are posted.
After this video, go below to Multiple Playlists. Start listening and reading the official presentation. We have a relationship with everybody and everything. A note for parents and educators. The entrance, and let the adventure begin. Proceed with the Magical Council. See Playlist B for children and the child within all of us. The Sacred Council. See Playlist C for young adults and adults. The Museum of Symbols. See Playlist H for young adults and adults. The Guided Living Encyclopedia. See Playlist I for young adults and adults. Click on the heading Channels and discover other related YouTube channels.